Coming up on tonight's broadcast, ASOSU remains in the spotlight, a new but potentially harmful way to get caffeine, and the former IMF chief faces more questions about his sexual conduct. All that and more right here on KBVR News.
Good evening, Corvallis, and welcome to your Wednesday night edition of the Beaver News. We're glad to have you with us. I'm Mackenzie Allen.
And I'm Cassady Gilroy. Beaver pride and support was alive and well last night as students congregated outside Dixon Rec Center with signs and petitions to garner support for the Student Experience Center. Josie DeWitt of the Daily Barometer reports that the students were from the course AHE 406, Organizing for Social Change, and were hoping to gain enough signatures on the petition to send it to local representatives in order to voice disinclinations towards Snell Hall. Snell Hall is currently the home of all student organizations on campus, which the SEC would replace if it gets passed. Funding for this new center was put on hold last year due to other priorities. Nick Hart, the former Interfraternity Council recruiter, commented, quote, "Student organizations are really important. They complement the education you get. Right now, they're in a building that doesn't exemplify how important they are."
From 11 to 4 p.m. today, the OSU Career Fair once again returned to campus. Hosted by OSU Career Services, the Career Fair took place in the CH2M Hill Alumni Center. Some of the companies in attendance included CH2M Hill, the FBI, Google, HP, Microsoft, and the Peace Corps and Georgia Pacific, among many others. In addition to the usual companies in attendance, this year's Career Services also hosted several businesses. The Engineering Specific Fair will be tomorrow, February 23rd, in the same location. If you are unable to make this term's fair, not to worry, because they are put on each term by Career Services.
The Associated Students of Oregon State University Senate met last night to better understand their own budget, reports Evan Anderson of the Daily Barometer. After a thorough discussion, the Senate passed JB 7105, the House Financial Accountability Act. This bill mandates that the Executive Director of Finance give monthly budget reports to the Ways and Means Committee, detailing any changes in funding, current spending, and payrolls. Previously, monetary issues were only dealt with when they were a concern. Additionally, JB 7106 was also passed, which requires the entire ASOSU Administrative and Logistics Advocate Board to be included in the signing of all travel and payroll expenditures, as well as any money request over $5,000 or 10% of the ASOSU budget. This was previously the duty of the Executive Director of Finance alone.
In more ASOSU news, we have been reporting on illegal pay raises for members of the executive branch authorized by formerly impeached President M. Tonga Hopoi, and it now seems there have been further misallocations of funds by the executive branch. Don Eiler of the Daily Barometer reports that current administration requested additional money to send 12 students to Washington, D.C. this spring, money separate from what is currently in the budget for travel. The request was not first approved by the House of Representatives Ways and Means Committee, violating current ASOSU statutes, but was instead sent directly to the Student Incidental Fees Committee. Unaware that the Ways and Means Committee had not agreed to the request, the Student Incidental Fees Committee granted the funds. There was also concern that additional funds were not in fact necessary in the first place, because according to the Ways and Means Committee Chairman Douglas Van Brossart, the travel fund is currently at 86% and has not been exhausted. After the Student Incidental Fees Committee became aware of this on Monday, they rescinded their offer. In an email sent to students earlier today, ASOSU is currently looking to fill 4 vacancies on their Judicial Council.
Despite it occurring close to a year ago, concerns are still around about the debris that washed up on U.S. shores resulting from the tragic earthquake that struck Fukushima, Japan last March. However, nuclear radiation health experts at Oregon State University claim there is no risk of residual radiation. They do warn of other dangers, though. Catherine Higley, head of the Department of Nuclear Engineering and Radiation Health Physics at OSU, stated, quote, "The tsunami impacted several industrial areas and no doubt swept out to sea many things like bottled chemicals or other compounds that could be toxic. If you see something on the beach that looks like it may have come from this accident, you shouldn't assume that it's safe." End quote. Debris from Japan should start washing later this year, so take care on those shores.
Just a reminder that this Friday is the last day for students to change to or from satisfactory/unsatisfactory grading. In order to make this change, you must submit a grade change basis form to the registrar's office no later than 5 p.m. after having it signed by your academic advisor. Undergraduate students may not SU more than 36 credits, nor are they able to SU any classes they wish to count towards their major. A grade of satisfactory will be equivalent to grades A through C-. Unsatisfactory grading is equivalent to grades D+ through F. S and U grades do not affect your GPA, although only S grades count towards any credit. Contact the office of the registrar or your academic advisor if you have any further questions. We are now heading into our first short break of the evening, but when we return, we'll have a weather update and a look at news around the nation. Stay tuned, you won't want to miss it.
Welcome back to the Beaver News live on Channel 26. A new study highlights the importance of nurturing riparian zone forests in the maintenance of healthy waterways, such as the Willamette River. This riparian zone refers to the shoreline of trees and other vegetation that overlooks the river and are vital for waterways to better process nitrates. Daniel Sobota, lead author of this study and holder of a PhD in fisheries and wildlife at OSU, commented, quote, "This ability of a stream to take up the nitrogen can help reduce the impacts of nitrogen enrichment in human-altered river basins. Additionally, the shade they offer may reduce the amount of sunlight reaching the stream, preventing excessive algae growth." End quote. Excessive levels of nitrogen cause eutrophication, which is excess algae growth that can die and lead to low oxygen waters, which ultimately degrade the waterway.
In what is likely to come as very good news for anyone thinking about purchasing a home, housing prices in January were at their lowest in a decade. The National Association of Realtors reported that the median home price in January fell 2% from December to $154,700. CNN reports that this could also be good news for people looking to sell, as the pace of sales rose to the highest level since May of 2010, helped by the low prices and even lower mortgage rates. Unfortunately, however, this is not all good news, as 35% of homes in January were also sold at a lower price than is owed on their mortgage. In a statement on the current housing market, Stuart Hoffman, chief economist with the PNC Financial, said, quote, "Prices will continue to fall through the first half of 2012 due to the high share of distressed sales. The recent agreement between the big mortgage servicers, state attorney general, and the Obama administration will also result in more homes going to foreclosure over the next few months, adding to downward pressure on prices."
New studies are being conducted to better help scientists document how predators target prey in the ocean and how it may not just be the amount of prey that matters, but the density and access to it, which has been referred to as the patches in the ocean. Kelly Benoit Bird, an Oregon State University oceanographer and holder of the prestigious MacArthur Fellowship Award, presented at a keynote talk earlier today at Salt Lake City, Utah. She said, quote, "We used to think that the size and abundance of prey was what mattered most, but patchiness is ubiquitous in marine systems and ultimately dictates the behavior of many animals and their relationships to the environment. We need to change our way of thinking about how we look at predator-prey relationships." End quote. Benoit Bird has traveled around the world using technology such as acoustic tracking to monitor the feeding behaviors of animals, such as spinner dolphins. She hopes to raise awareness on the importance of patchiness of food and ultimately help improve our ability to understand the ocean and its inhabitants much better.
On Tuesday, the National Highway Traffic Safety Administration unveiled a new crash test dummy to evaluate child safety seats and boosters made for children weighing more than 65 pounds. The NHTSA said they created the new dummy in response to the growing number of booster seats made for larger children, ranging in ages from 8 to 12. U.S. Transportation Secretary Ray LaHood had this to say about the new dummy. As the marketplace evolves to accommodate changing consumer needs, it's important that safety regulators also have the best tools possible for evaluating how well these products work. The new test dummy breaks new ground for the department's crash test program and is a significant step forward for evaluating child seat performance, end quote. CNN reports that the agency recommends that children use booster seats until they are somewhere between 8 and 12 years old and about 4 feet 9 inches tall. Manufacturers of the larger child safety seats will have until 2014 to meet the new requirements. We now go to Cassady Gilroy for a look at the weather.
That's a 5-day weather forecast. Back to you guys in the studio.
Of day. Expect to see some more rain with a high. The Smithsonian Institute officially began construction today on a new museum dedicated to African American culture and heritage. CNN reports that the Smithsonian's 19th museum, the National Museum of African American History and Culture, will be located in the National Mall, and construction is expected to last about 3 years. According to the Smithsonian website, this new museum will, quote, be a place where all Americans can learn about the richness and diversity of the African American experience, what it means to their lives, and how it helped us shape this nation. A place that transcends the boundaries of race and culture that divide us, and becomes a lens into a story that unites us all, end quote. The museum will cost $500 million and display over 20,000 artifacts.
Coffee used to be the #1 source for energy, and then came along energy drinks. Now we have a direct dispersal of caffeine with the invention of AeroShot. But is it safe? CNN reports that the Food and Drug Administration are currently planning to investigate whether this form of caffeine consumption is safe for consumers. Concerns were brought up by New York Senator Charles Schumer, who wrote a letter to the FDA urging them to examine the safety and legality of the product. He said, quote, this product could be very dangerous, but there might be legitimate uses. The businessman staying up late who doesn't want to take a drink of coffee, that's okay. But what about kids who go to bars and take several shots of AeroShot so they can drink more? End quote. AeroShot is a liquid lipstick-shaped dispenser that puffs out a powdery mix of caffeine and B vitamins directly into your mouth, where it dissolves and can be purchased online for only $3. Each device contains approximately 100 milligrams of caffeine. The average adult can consume up to 300 milligrams without harm. We're now taking our final break of the evening, but we will be back in just a minute with the international coverage. Stay tuned.
Welcome back to the Beaver News right here on KBVR. Mega upload Kim.com, also known as Kim Schmitz, was released on bail today after a judge found him to not be a flight risk due to his current lack of funds. CNN reports that .com was arrested along with 6 other people connected to Mega Upload under accusations by the U.S. government of, quote, international organized criminal enterprise responsible for massive worldwide online piracy of copyrighted works, end quote. .com and 3 others are still currently in New Zealand, where they were arrested while the Justice Department tries to get them extradited to the United States to face charges here. .com is a German and New Zealand citizen and holds both a German and a Finnish passport. For the Finnish passport, he had his last name legally changed to .com.
After nearly 2 years of complaints, original iPhone 4 consumers will get a little compensation for their troubles with Apple's infamous antenna problem, reports CNN. Released in June of 2010, the iPhone 4 quickly received criticism for frequently dropped voice calls and the so-called death grip, where which holding the phone in a certain but common manner completely cuts off the antenna's signal. Over the weekend, Apple settled a class action lawsuit which was filed about the issue and promised to pay $15 or give a free case to everyone in the United States who bought one of these phones. This is more than 21 million customers. Eligible customers should get an email from Apple sometime in April about this offer. They will have 120 days from that point to apply for the $15 rebate or sign up for the free case.
Dominique Strauss-Kahn, the former chief of the International Monetary Fund, was released from police custody today following 2 days of questioning related to an alleged prostitution ring. Though he admits to attending several sex parties, he claims to not have been aware that the women present were prostitutes. This is just another sex scandal for the formerly high-ranking official who was once believed to be a candidate for the French presidency. CNN reports that Strauss-Kahn was arrested in the United States after a New York hotel maid accused him of sexual assault and attempted rape in May, causing him to resign his post with the IMF. That case fell apart due to what prosecutors saw as a lack of credibility, though forensic evidence was able to show that sexual intercourse had occurred. Upon returning to France, another woman, Tristan Bannon, accused Strauss-Kahn of attacking her in 2003, but due to the statute of limitations, that case was not pursued either. In response, Strauss-Kahn has filed a defamation suit against Bannon, denying all allegations.
A riot broke out in Karabokan prison late Tuesday in Bali, Indonesia, reports CNN, requiring the attention of hundreds of Indonesian police officers to contain the situation. The rioting inmates had set a portion of the prison on fire and prevented firefighters from reaching the complex. The police forces set up a containment perimeter last night, but waited to storm the facility until daybreak this morning. 3 inmates were wounded, and no prisoners managed to escape. Karabokan prison also houses 60 foreign prisoners, though they are housed in a separate block from the one that was set on fire, and were thus unharmed. Order appears to have been restored, but the prison remains heavily guarded at this time.
A passenger train in Argentina crashed into a Buenos Aires station earlier today, killing 49 people and injuring hundreds more, according to officials. CNN reports that the train was traveling at 26 kilometers per hour, approximately 16 miles per hour, when it entered the station around 8:30 a.m. local time, and though it had stopped at all previous 14 stations and slowed down approaching the Buenos Aires station, it was unable to come to a complete stop before impact. A witness described the scene by saying, quote, "Suddenly I heard a bang, and many people fell on top of me. I think I had more than 10 people above me. I got out as quickly as I could. I only saw injured people and heard screams," end quote. Authorities believe that there may have been a problem with the train's brakes that caused it to crash into the barrier. Today's crash was among the worst in Argentinian history.
Deposed Egyptian President Hosni Mubarak will be sentenced on the 2nd of June, reports CNN. Mubarak has been on trial for 7 months now on charges of corruption and ordering the deaths of hundreds of people who protested against his regime. He pleaded not guilty to these charges. The Egyptian revolution began January 2011 and has been ongoing to this day. It was mainly a campaign of non-violent civil resistance, but violent clashes between protesters and security forces have occurred regularly. The death toll has reached at least 846 people, with over 6,000 injured. After nearly 3 decades of rule, Mubarak finally stepped down on the 11th of February. Also on trial are his 2 sons and other members of his former regime. We now go to Mary Johnson for a look at sports.
In Pac-12 baseball, with conference teams winning a combined 25 games during the weekend, 5 Pac-12 squads head into the second week of the season, still ranked in Baseball America's top 25 polls. Stanford is still ranked at number 2, Arizona 8th, Arizona State is 13th, Oregon State is 21st, and UCLA is ranked 22nd. After wins on the road against UC Santa Barbara last weekend, the OSU baseball team will continue playing on the road this weekend at the San Diego State Tournament, where they will be taking on Pacific University, Kansas State, and of course, San Diego State. The softball team will also be on the road this weekend in California for the Cathedral City Classic, as they hope to continue their best in the past 5 years. The tournament starts tomorrow, and they will face off against Iowa State at 3 o'clock p.m. and New Mexico immediately following at 5 p.m. On Friday, they will challenge Ohio State at 12:30 p.m. and Iowa at 3 p.m. The team will get Saturday night off before finishing up the tournament against Colorado State at 11 a.m. on Sunday, where they would take on Maine in a doubleheader in Fullerton. Around the NBA, Portland Trail Blazers beat the Spurs 137-97 yesterday. The Blazers had 6 players score over 16 points. This has not happened since December 20th, 1992 against Golden State. This is also the first time San Antonio lost by more than 40 points or more in a game since March of 1997 when they lost to Chicago. Last night's win marked the Trailblazers' second win of 40 points or more in a league, leading seventh victory over more than 20 points. It is also the 177th consecutive sellout at the Rose Garden, dating back to December 21st, 2007. This has been your look at your sports around the Northwest.
That's all the news we have for you tonight, but be sure to tune in tomorrow at 7 p.m. for more of your local, national, and international coverage right here on the Beaver News.